We have something very special. We have one of our newer residents, and I'm so glad that Inspirata Point is getting so involved in our programs. But today we have Joe Herrera Jr. Thank you. And he's going to tell us a little bit about his family, which I believe is outstanding. So I'm going to let you take it away, Joe.
Okay. Well, thank you, first of all, for inviting me to share my family's story. It's quite lengthy, and there's a legacy that my father and grandmother have left in the field of art, and I'd like to share that with you today. Now, the title of this presentation actually was taken from a major showing that my father and grandmother's paintings had. Gosh, I think this is 2017 or 2019 in Norman, Oklahoma, where there's one of the largest displays of my father's and grandmother's work ever done. I mean, there's almost, I think, about 70 pieces of their work, and this is the catalog that came with the presentation or the exhibition that was made. But before we go into anything, I want to first of all let you know who I really am, and I'll do it in my language. What I just said, my name is Joe Herrera. I'm from the Shkarsroots is my Indian name, which means leader of the dancers, and I'm from the Sun Clan. And the way we greet anyone of this magnitude in my language is Kueti Hopa. That means greetings to you all. And my grandmother's language actually was she was from San Alfonso Pueblo, a little different village in New Mexico, and they would say ambio. Interesting about languages. There's 574 federally recognized tribes in the country, and probably about 300 languages still exist today. And amongst the Pueblos, which is, we're very unique because we've been there a long time in New Mexico. And there's 5 distinct languages that we speak. There's Kerisan, Tiwa, Tewa, Toa, and Zunian. And I come from a village, Cochiti Pueblo, there in New Mexico, that speaks Keres. So that's the language that I still speak today whenever I go home. We're always encouraged to speak our native language so that we don't lose it, because it's very meaningful. And as I go through this presentation, I think a lot of what I'm going to talk about art also includes the language which goes with that, the culture, the spirituality that goes with the art. Where do the Pueblos come from? Pueblos originated in, at least has been recorded. The Cochiti Pueblo, you might see the picture on the left. That is Bandelier, if any of you are familiar with New Mexico, up in the Los Alamos area. That's where Cochiti Pueblo actually came from. But then also it's been recorded that we also have some lineage to Mesa Verde, which is up in the southern Colorado area. So from a recorded time, we can record our ancestry back to, gosh, about 700-800 AD. So I know that the Bandelier, the village often goes up there to do ceremonies, just to respect the elders where we've come from. A little bit about the culture and the religion of the Pueblos. Incidentally, I'll leave some time for questions and answers at the end of the presentation, so you can load up now, and if you want to take notes about things that I'm going to be talking about. But what's important to the Pueblos is the interrelationships that we have in our social organization. And as I just said, I come from the Sun Clan, and in the Pueblos we're very matrilineal, and we take the name of or the clan, I should say, of our mothers. So my mother is Sun Clan, all her children, and my sister is Sun Clan. And, so when I marry, if I had married a native, I would, yeah, it would have been the clan of, that she came from. So that's how the clan, works, and that's how you're identified. And, it's just like having the name Smith or Jones, that's how, and then it's important that you have, not only the Indian name that you have, but then the clan that you come from. The non-kinship, we're kind of divided by moieties, there's in ceremonial life, um, uh, we, uh, we choose, or basically, who are from, this is where it's more patrilineal, where um, whatever the moiety of the father, we take that, we go to that. So in our village, we have a turquoise clan and a pumpkin clan. And so those two clans basically are the ones that actually perform dances, perform many of the ceremonies. So that's where you belong, basically. So that's a little bit of how a village is made up. Now, from a political standpoint, we still today choose our leaders, and it's not a voting type of a thing, except there's some villages that are beginning to go to a little more democratic process. But the age-old process was where the medicine societies would choose, who the leadership would be. And that's kind of special because, the medicine societies would basically know who is out there, knows what they've done, knows what they're capable of doing, and then they're chosen to be the leader of that, that particular year or a couple of years, however long that tenure might be. So we're the only tribe that Abraham Lincoln recognized in that particular fashion. So that's quite unique. Now we'll talk a little bit about my grandmother and our family. That is my grandmother, and the little baby that she's carrying is my father. So that's kind of a beginning of the legacy that that they have presented to us. Um, my grandmother was born in 1893, and her name is Kwa'a, and that's a Tewa name, and Kwa'a means white coral beads. Translated, that's what that means. And as I said, she was actually born in the San Ildefonso Pueblo village, which is just north of Santa Fe. And she actually left, actually wasn't just, didn't just leave her father. Her mother died when she was about 12 years old. And her father was working in the fields, basically didn't have time to raise her. So he had relatives in Cochiti Pueblo, and so she was sent to Cochiti to be raised, and that's basically where she stayed. Found her husband, and that's where she began her artwork and her life in the village. She started painting when she was in her teens. This is her painting one of her big murals. And in, I guess she basically was, um, I guess, kind of testing kind of the window insofar as art in just art for that for the sake of art, because typically painting was done by males. And interesting that she kind of broke the barrier, insofar as art for women, and that kind of opened the door for many other women in that particular time to begin painting. because most of the time but women did a lot of the decorating on pottery and such. And I'll share some of that here a little later on. Interesting. This particular painting she did back in about 1932, and um, it, at the time, the price for paintings um, for Native peoples was between $2 and $25. So this particular painting commanded a price back in 1932 of $225, which was significant at that time. And one of also a unique thing, she participated in the 1931 exposition of the Indian tribal arts at the New York City World Fair and the Chicago World Fair in 1933. Um, where did my grandmother come from? Of course, like I said, she came from the San Alfonso Pueblo, just north. And this is a little picture of the actual, this is actually a kiva to the left there. I think it's on the left. Yeah, there it is. And there's dance preparation where the dancers are coming on to perform a dance. And my grandmother's in the middle there winnowing wheat. And my father, of course, was born in Cochiti Pueblo. It's a picture of him, and with me. I'm the little buffalo there. So this picture was about 19, I'd have to say 1949 or somewhere in there, 48, just before my grandmother died. And this is a picture of my father, him dancing there at Cochiti Pueblo. He's the one nearest to you. And what's unique about Cochiti Pueblo, too, is I don't know if you've been there, but we have the tent rocks there, which is a national monument. And this is a picture of those tent rocks, which are just west of the village, just a few miles. In the culture and the religion of the Pueblos, ceremonial life, of course, is very, very important to them. And seasons were also very important, and how we actually perform ceremonies just to honor the new season that was coming up. In fact, there's a ceremony that is done in the spring, usually around March time frame, and we call that Hanyikit, which means we now help bring the sun back to the north, so that now we have rain and fertilization and at the end of the summer in the fall we call it Haniko, which means we now take the sun to the south. So there's ceremonies where we honor what is happening in our world, and we're praying that the sun now help the people that actually will benefit from the sun, those that are now in the south, in the southern part of the world. This is a picture of this is a painting of what I should go back. This is a painting that my father did. The figure on the left is the sun, and the figure on the right is the moon. And you can see underneath it, the painting of the corn. You see there, a figure of the corn. To the left, there's the rainbow, and then there's some more corn there, and some little altars there. So that's one of his paintings that he did. And this one is my grandmother's painting, and this is what they call a basket dance, and this is typically done in the fall. So whenever they do this, that's the time of year that it is. This is planting. This is a painting that my father did, uh, and I'll tell a little bit more about the style a little later on. But this is a different style of painting that he did, and this is the planting. You can see that there's a figure there, well, basically a kachina, which is now germinating. With the with the corn there, and there's the water serpent underneath, and the sun, the clouds, and the rainbow. And this is one of my grandmother's paintings, and this is the harvest dance. And this is typically done, at the end of the summer, July, August, when, the harvest is in. All of their painting was usually done by watercolor, tempera, okay? And usually on Strathmore paper, or, and I don't know what they had way back then, but that's what I remember my father painting on. Hunting, we always have dances in the winter and the fall, hunting dances, prayers for a good hunt. And then usually in about February, there's again hunting dances as prayers for and thanksgiving for the good hunt. You never ask without thanking. And this is one of my father's paintings about hunt. You can see here where there's a hunt for, there's a little bear there. You can see that. And then initiations are always done like in and around November is when, they do initiations, different kinds of societies that one can belong to. There's all, servant societies, there's drummer societies, as in this picture. This actually is a painting, and I have to think that this painting is done with the image of my grandfather, her husband, because he was a drummer. And uh, uh, the drummer society is a very sacred society in that they have to know the songs, they have to know, how to beat, that drum, so that our dances are very are much in unison. So that's important, and the drummer is the one that keeps them in unison because everyone follows what the drum is doing. And so they have to go through special training, and then when they're initiated, they actually are the only ones that can touch the drum. They're the only ones that can actually do the drumming. Um, my grandmother actually was one of a few artists from the Rio Grande area, if you may, that were all part of a self-taught group, among which were like Julian Martinez, who was if you're familiar with the potter Maria Martinez, from that's her husband, Julian. Alfonso Roybal, Awacide, Abel Sanchez, Crescencio Martinez, and these were the people that she was actually um, with when they kind of learned how to do their work, and actually began to do uh, uh, exquisite type paintings. And these are a couple of her paintings. There, Buffalo Dance on the left, and again over here on the right would be kind of the harvest dance. This is a unique painting, um, one which I owned, and it has basically it shows the village life. You can see the ceremonial dances. There's the kiva on the left, with dancers coming out of it, ready to perform a dance. Up in the upper left, you see a church, with officers standing out in guard, and then someone worshiping the sun up there. There's a school, and then there's women on the far right there that are actually firing pottery. In the middle there, you see a woman actually baking bread. And then lower, you see a little older man there who's collecting wood for fire, and then little animals, and then a couple that is just getting married. So a lot of activity in this particular paint, and one that I'm happy to say that I own. Um, later on, after the presentation, you're more than welcome to. I brought three paintings of a couple of my fathers and one of my grandmothers. Or after the presentation, you're more than welcome to go up and look at them. As I said, one of the things that my grandmother did was kind of break the barrier of just being a potter. But this is a couple of her potteries. So she also made pottery. So quite talented woman, for that matter. But her work was she really began to focus more of her attention to working with two-dimensional work on paper rather than the pottery. Pottery took a lot of time, whereas painting took less time. And if you've ever had to make a piece of pottery, mold it, because it's not done on a potter's wheel. It's all done by the coil method. That's how all the Pueblo pottery is done, is all by coil method. A couple more of her paintings. A corn dance here on the left, and the buffalo dance on the right. I'm going to show you a little video of an actual dance, and you'll see you saw some of the paintings there, and you'll see much of what we're going to see here on the video as representative of her art. One of the reasons why many tribes don't really allow photography or recordings inside the village, this was done outside the village, is that, it's like going into a church and filming all of that. It's just, it's just not, it's not really the right thing to do. It's kind of imposing, on a prayer. So it's important to know that there's a lot of solemnity that goes into it, a lot of spirituality that goes into each of those songs. In our village, each there's there's usually there's 6 sets, so there's like 12 dances, and there's 12 distinct songs, and they're composed every year. There's new songs composed every year. And so, what happens once that song is done, there's a prayer said that that song will never begin, but that prayer or that particular song will never be given a lesser honor. So that's retired forever. So that's what's unique about some of the songs that are composed, is that once you hear them, that's it. And the dancers typically you begin running, a little beforehand, kind of preparing yourself physically, but then also in preparation, you kind of go through some fasting. You don't. Part of it is, they ask you not to partake in anything that might inhibit your performance, like alcohol, that type of thing, or any drugs. So you have to kind of not do that. You have to eat the kind of right food, and then you kind of also go into your own prayer mode. You kind of do some reflection on your own. So there's a lot that goes into just a dance, and and the dance, always comes with also some feasting too. When you go into a village, they not only do the dance, but they also invite you into their homes to partake of the food. And so, if you ever ever go into New Mexico and see, or are able to witness one of the feast days, yeah, the doors are always open to outsiders, and they always welcome you in. They always ask you to sit and eat, and it's almost a dishonor to refuse eating. So it's kind of one of those things. If you're so full, eat just a little bit. But that's very unique to to Pueblo life. um, Another picture of the family there: my father, my grandmother, my grandfather, Emmy. And this again was probably 1948, 49. So I was about 3, 4 years old when my grandmother died in September of 1949. And interesting that there's a number of paintings that she had she was still doing, but in tradition, as much of the Pueblo tradition, is that my grandfather burned all of those paintings that were still in works, and so, but that's kind of the tradition, that they have. But important to note here is that her work now hangs in virtually every major museum, in the country, including the Smithsonian, the Heard Museum. Some of you have been to the Heard downtown Phoenix, and just depending on the exhibit that they have, whether their paintings will come out or not. They just had one last year, and I can't remember the exact exhibit it was, but their paintings were hanging almost a year there, both my father and grandmother's. Cleveland Museum, Dartmouth Museum, Denver Museum, Peabody Museum. I mean, the list goes on. My mother and I have a number of her collections. So through the years, I've been fortunate to find paintings that have been on the net, so to speak, and I'll call the owners and let them know who I am. And I've been fortunate to be able to to purchase some of the paintings for our own collection. So now on to my father, um, born in 1921. That's my dad and I. And he actually began painting when he was about my age, about 5, 6 years old, and under the tutelage of his mother, my grandmother, and but he got a lot of his training, not only through her, but from the Santa Fe Indian School, where there's a number of artists teachers there. Um, and there's one after he left high school, he went on to the University of New Mexico, where he came under the tutelage of an artist by the name of Raymond Johnson, who kind of helped him, I guess, understand what much of the native tradition was, hundreds of years ago into pictographs, petroglyphs, that are found in many of the cave dwellings, whether it be Bandelier or Mesa Verde, or the list goes on with where some of them are found. So that intrigued him, and much of his artwork was represented in some of that. As you can see here, you can see this particular painting. There's a lot of uh, you can interpret a lot in there. There's a bird on the left, with germinating, there's seeds. There's there's the hand, the rainbow with water coming down because there's water serpent there. There's wind flowing. There's the hand, the rainbow, stars. So there's a lot in there. Don't know what this particular how could I say uh, the title of it was, but there's a lot speaking to you in this particular painting. This is another one of his Raymond Johnson influenced paintings. Um, you can see again the rainbow with the moon, the sun, um, the clouds, and down there is wind with the mountains. Down at the very bottom, you can see plant life. Uh, and much, if you look really closely at the paintings, something unique about his paintings is, and a comment was made of a painting over here to my left, is that that looks like a kind of different paper that he's on, but no, it's a technique called atomizing, where once he painted it, then he would, take an atomizer and basically spray it, with his mouth on that, so it gives the appearance that it's sand. So that's a very unique process that he had. This one here is kind of a seasonal thing. You can see that the geese are flying north, with the clouds, rain, water on the bottom there. But a lot of representation in that. Here's one of the parrot dance. Um, very intricate, very detailed, as you can see with the designs in the costuming. Um, and um, his mother taught him a lot about how to paint the hands, the faces, the feet, so that came out symmetrical. So again, a lot came from that. But interesting about parrots, and we still have the parrot dance to this day, is that you wonder where parrots, really came from. They're not indigenous to America, North America. So there's trading that happened many, many moons ago, and I mean, there's parrot feathers found in many of the diggings, at Bandelier, and so you have to, that was dated back to like 800 AD, is when about 800 AD when Bandelier actually became into existence. And but many of the burial grounds and such, they found parrot feathers, and parrot feathers are very honored. There's a that we use them a lot in our ceremonies, in our dances. So there's talk that there was a trade route, way back, between the Indians of South America and North America. This one here is you can tell it's a hunting type of a scene, with the hunter on the right and the bear down at the bottom, with the bear tracks, the sun, and the moon down here on the bottom. So again, kind of same thing. There's a lot of reverence for all that is around us, nature, for the uh, just the animals. We honor. Inanimate objects we honor. It's just it's yeah we were um, we're we're trying to protect the ecosystem back there. We understand how important the ecosystem was, just for our survival. So we took great pride in trying to save what nature has given us. This one here is actually germination. This one here, the left, is kind of a figure of an embryo, so it's the beginning of life. And this I just purchased here not long ago, this particular painting here. It's the hunter, the bear. You can see the different animals. But my father called this the harmony with the forces of nature. And I found that in California by art collector back there who, actually, my father used to know the fellow who owned this. If you were ever in San Juan Capistrano, there's a lady that owned, oh gosh, I can't remember the name of her trading post, but it was the San Juan Capistrano. Her name was Sue DeMayo, and that's where this particular painting came from. And she sold it to him, and I got it back. So I'm very fortunate to have this back in our family. And This is again, my father's interpretation of the green corn dance. You can see on the left the men, and this is part of the turquoise moiety. You know, we talked about moieties earlier, and the men on the turquoise side, you know, are painted with blue paint, and the men on the pumpkin side are painted with kind of the red paint, earthen color. And the two dancers in the middle are called kosharis, and they're basically they they're the ones that manage the dance. They're the ones that actually kind of run things. You know, they keep you in step. They encourage you, but they're also fun makers. You know, they're called. There's a name for them called. Oh gosh, what name escapes me now. But they're. Um, uh, but you can see them if you go to any of the ceremonies. You know, they're always sometimes making fun of people, with the people that are watching. But you know, they're very attentive to what's going out there. They know the songs very well. They keep people that are struggling. You know, they help them along. But the women on the right, you know, you see the black mantas. Those are called mantas. You know, and they're all handmade, and they wear them. Again, you think about you know, the 90-degree weather, and but then um, yeah, they're hot, and the tablitas on the top of their heads, they're like crowns. Those are made especially for them. And you know, there's always they're on there. They're painted. You know, again, the sun and the moon are always painted on there. And in their hands, both the men and women, you'll see evergreen. And in the dances that you saw just a little earlier, you see the evergreen. Now, evergreen to the Pueblo people is everlasting life. So again, those are collected for that particular day. But also when the day is, when the dances are done, they don't just discard them. They all take them down to the nearest river. They put them there with prayers for blessings for the entire world, wherever they land. So I mean, that's the beauty of how, you know, how the Pueblo people, you know, kind of honor what is, you know, what has just happened, and send the blessings and prayers that they receive to the rest of the world. This is the buffalo dance, animal dance, and this is me on the left leading as the hunter, leading the buffalo dancers and deer dancers out to dance. So, Nada, if you're back there, I'm ready for the video. Interesting about that particular dance, that's it's called a buffalo dance, but it's a mixed animal dance, basically. You have, but the buffalo, you have the, usually antelope, deer, elk, and sometimes eagle, will be involved. But in the middle, you'll notice also the women, and they're called the buffalo mothers. And so they're the ones that actually called the either the deer, the antelope, the animals, and or same thing with the buffalo. They'll call them, they'll send them away, and so they're the women have a very important part in this particular ceremony. And again, these are usually done in uh, November timeframe, asking for a good hunt, prayers for a good hunt, and then again in February there it's done for the thank you for the good hunt. So the last phase of my father's painting, this is when this is back probably in the 80s, mid 80s. Um, um, he kind of took things a little beyond, just um, Pueblo life. Has some Pueblo in there, but also has kind of he interjected much of the South American or um, art here. Much of this is almost like Mayan or Aztec, you might note in there. So a little different style there. And so this was kind of in kind of the what we would call almost the last phase of his work. And this is basically when he began to to lose his eyesight. He was diabetic, and so it was late '80s when he put down his his paintbrush, and that was it. But all this artwork, all this that he did, brought him some accolades. In 1954, he was one of the few Americans that received from the French government the Palme Academique, which is one of the highest French or one of the highest art awards given by any government. And so there's a number of Native artists that were honored that particular day, and he was one of them. So um, we're honored to have that in the family. Um, Dad served in the military. He was a radar man in during World War II. Graduated from the University of New Mexico. Actually taught at the University of Arizona, and he was secretary for the National Congress of American Indians for many years. He was a governor of our village for many years. He was also a radio host, and many people often think that you got a great voice, Joe. And I said, well, I think I got that from my dad. And he's also the very first executive director for the Commission of Indian Affairs for the state of New Mexico, and he created a little dance group that entertained at Disneyland, and I was one of those. So from 1962 through '66, I spent my summers of my high school and college life at Disneyland performing there, and I actually got to have lunch with Uncle Walter. So that was kind of an honor. Um, and Dad died in 2002, and we're proud to to say that he too has artwork at Smithsonian and. Jim, I don't know if many of you know Jim Biolek, who is from Scottsdale. He had one of the largest collections of my father's and grandmother's work in the world. And he donated much of that to the Fred Jones Museum in where this particular um, 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 exhibition was, of their artwork. And the Heard Museum has much of his work. Philbrook, Dartmouth College, Northern Arizona Museum up there has some. Denver Art Museum, Gilcrease has some. So there's many museums and private collections that still have his work. And I still hunt, for whatever is out there that I can, that I can bring in or bring back to the family. So with that, I think I'd like to end with, just this little phrase, which I think means a lot, that art invites us to an encounter, which is a gift, a spiritual gift that might bring us into a deeper relationship with God. So, any questions?
Questions, comments, anybody?
So does your, oh, sorry.
Oh.
Does your sister have a large collection as well?
Yeah, it's my sister lives with my grandmother or my mother. My mother is going to be 100 years this year, 100 years old. And yeah, actually it belongs to my mother. So my mother has the collection as much as as well as I. Yeah. So we're the collectors in the family.
What an amazing, spectacular lecture. An absolutely amazing, spectacular lecture you gave. And everybody in this whole auditorium should walk out with a much better understanding of what a Native American.
Actually, Nada and I are working on a trip sometime in the future to the Herd Museum, and I'd like to coordinate something with the Herd because I actually work with them, to keep the archives of my father and grandmother current. And what I'd like to do with the Herd is get them to take us to their archives and view some of my father's or grandmother's work that they have.
That would be exciting.
Get some quick. Way back there. Oh,
Do you paint?
no.
No.
No. Painted the town pretty good once.
I'm curious as to how did those tribes, your tribes, make a living? Other than pottery, did they do jewelry or?
I think all of the above. I mean, many of the artisans also have other jobs, aside from art. And it's difficult, to make a substantial living, on just whether it's pottery or painting or carving, whatever it is. So many of them, do have, other jobs, and then this is kind of what they do on the side. But there are some noted artists that are um, make a significant, a great living on their artwork, but not everybody's as fortunate.
Thank you.
Well, Joe, if you take a trip to the Herd Museum, I think Nada better get several buses because I think that'll be popular.
One question up here.
I'll just say, another Susan and I are docents at the Herd Museum. We're there the first and third Fridays from 10 to 1 to do tours. But we'd be thrilled to go on your tour as well, Joe.
Super, super.
Oh, and right now, one of the main exhibits in the Grand Gallery is Maria and Modernism.
Yeah. Oh, Maria, actually, yeah. Thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah.
Actually, my grandmother and Maria are cousins, first cousins. So so we're related. So Maria would be my great aunt. Yeah.
Any other comments? Thank you, Joe.
Thank
I
you.
can't begin to thank
Thank
you.
you.
Be sure and come back next week. We're going to have another great performance. So.